Hey guys, welcome to another video, and in this video we're going to be talking about a few points that I decided to, a few points that I wanted to talk about. This video is targeted towards general demographic. It's not really towards anyone specific, nor is it towards any specific rank. I do hope that it helps majority of people. Anyways, let's go over it. This is a few things that are causes for concern that I've noticed over the years, and I just do want to talk about them. I may have spoken about these in the past, but not collectively. So let's go ahead and take a look. So the video is going to be essentially divided into a number of portions or concepts. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the blind leading the blind. It's the saying that it's pretty universal saying. I've said it many times on stream, and essentially what it means is misconceptions around the game. The second thing I'm going to be talking about is how to effectively plan serious improvement, how much, what the budget, the budget, and then hours, etc. We're going to talk about that as well. Lastly, we're going to talk about tilt, and we're also going to be talking about mentality, and we're going to be talking about the information around those two concepts that people are currently providing, and why it's so incorrect. But anyways, so let's go ahead and get into it. So first of all, the blind leading the blind. Now, the internet has become essentially a hub for information, which is great, right? It's revolutionary. That's great. However, the problem is that anything anytime there's a good thing, usually there's negative aspects to it. The internet has essentially become, when it comes to League of Legends, a hub of misinformation as well, which means that there's a lot of people out there that are essentially giving out information that it's not even correct, and then they're essentially concocting concepts about the game that they then give answers to, and all of those answers are based on their limited amount of knowledge and experiences in the game. Now, I'm not saying that everyone is doing that. Of course, there are a select few of individuals who are giving correct information. And the way you actually want to approach the game is you want to start following a very specific amount of people. So obviously I have a list of recommended content creators that I think are quite good on my Discord, which I don't even know, can't even maneuver my own Discord here. I don't know where it is exactly, but you can talk to those people, right? Whether it be the content that VGRV2 puts out, whether it be LS's stuff, whether it be my stuff, whether it be whatever. Generally, for lower ranking players, there are no contradictions when it comes to these concepts. So you want to try to essentially take what these coaches or these educators talk about, and then you want to now compare them and see if there are contradictions. If there are contradictions, then someone isn't correct. And then you're like, okay, well, what's going on, right? But usually, almost 99.9% of the time, when it comes to lower MMR, there are no contradictions as to what the correct calls should be. This video is, however, actually targeted towards more low elo players than high elo players, because obviously there's more lower MMR players than higher ranking ones, logically speaking, right? So, you want to try to approach getting answers from a very select amount of individuals that you deem as credible. Right now, they could be anyone, but again, have to be credible in your eyes, and also should not be contradictory in what they say, right? When you compare them. Anyways, so we're going to talk about some questions now. A lot of people usually, when they ask questions, are most of the time asking pretty bad questions, and this is an issue that I've seen pretty often now. Because essentially, when you're asking a question based on the limited amount of knowledge that you have. You're asking a question based on your limited amount of experiences. And now what you're getting an answer from someone who is absolutely random, probably doesn't actually have much experience in this field, and is essentially giving you an answer which is also limited by their experiences and their understanding, right? So then what ends up happening is then you take their limited understanding of the answer, you then decide to add it to your understanding of the game, and then you begin to continue to sculpt your perspective of the game, which in all honesty could just be completely wrong. Then what ends up happening is you end up becoming those players that are stuck for multiple seasons in platinum, diamond, gold, etc., right? So now an example here is, how do you handle, again, I was on Summoner School Reddit a bit ago, and I was just looking around, and I decided to take out like 2 or 3 posts that I thought were, okay, this could kind of prove, or this could kind of actually pertain to my points that I'm talking about in the video here. Not necessarily prove it, because the entire subreddit is a proof of misinformation. But anyways, so how do you handle being behind on kills and ahead as an ADC? Now, I'm not going to read this essay. I don't care, right? I already read it. I'm not going to make you guys through it. You can read it on your own time. Essentially, what this guy is saying is he wants to play differently based on his kills and his assists. This is a concept that doesn't exist. The way you do this is you continue to play the game. Doesn't matter how many kills or assists you have. Of course, if you have a guardian angel, if you have a lot of damage, yeah, you can do more damage, sure. But you still have to play the game like you're usually playing. Now, this guy is essentially, what he's asking here is, do you make risky plays and fight like you were before? Do you become, I don't know what a de facto support at that point, I don't know what that means. Do you farm like you would if you were behind? All of these things are essentially the same thing, right? You would do the same thing. Now, again, the answers that this guy is getting are also pretty inaccurate, where this guy goes ahead and answers, if you feel like you're poor, you have tons of assists, not because you missed the kill, but because you are not farming effectively / well. Focus on that, probably won't be a problem. This guy's essentially telling him to focus on CS. This doesn't actually help the player. The problem with this player is that his understanding of ADC is flawed. It's not even the question. The question is fundamentally wrong. If you're gonna ask the wrong question, you'll get the wrong answer. And the next question actually explains this and emphasizes on this point pretty well here. But anyways, so this guy got a bunch of upvotes. This, again, it's not even the correct answer. It doesn't pertain to the question. It has nothing to do with the question, right? And anyways, so this is just an example of a question that is, to me, it reflects to me that it shows that you're not a player who understands the role, and you need to understand the role at a fundamental level, so that then once you do understand the ADC role, you won't be asking these types of questions, because stuff like this you'll realize is actually irrelevant, right? And then what ends up happening is people that have limited understanding of the game begin to then answer this player, which then he now takes and, again, continues to, going back to my earlier point, sculpt in his own idea of the game, right? And I mean, he'll get heart stuck if he continues to do this for years and years, right? Next question, right? Jungle tempo after 3 camp clear. Hey, I'll actually read this one out because it's quite short. I have a question that I'd like to have some points on. Let's say I do 3 camp clear and I find a gankable lane. I gank it, whether I get the kill or not. What should be done afterwards? Okay, so you can't answer this question because the guy hasn't given you enough variables to the answer, all right? Or to the question. And so if you're like, especially with jungle, man, junglers, like, you can do a ton of things, and usually you cannot answer a question about jungle until you give like a visual. Whether you give like a video or you give a picture or something, you have to show a play, you have to show a route, and you have to ask yourself, is this route correct or wrong? And then you can present that, right? A good example of a question in League of Legends is, okay, so here's the question. I'm whatever ranking player. Both my junglers started top side. They're both pathing down to bot side. My bot lane has push lead. I want to freeze the wave, or I actually want to just go ahead and shoot a recall in this lane. Maybe you're playing like, whatever champion, and that could shoot a recall in the lane, in mid, let's say, for example. And I won't have priority on wave 4, which is when the crab will spawn. Is it okay to not shoot a recall here? Or is it okay to actually shoot a recall here? That's absolutely fine concept, because that question shows that you understand the game, and that question will actually help you build on your understanding of the game. Now, the answer doesn't matter. I'm not going to answer the question, of course. It depends on who the bot lane is and who the jungler is and all that other nonsense, right? But this is a question that essentially has a fundamental, like, it has a basis of someone like, okay, you understand the game, and well, you need to now you can get a proper answer for it. But when you start asking questions like this, and it shows to you, and it shows to me, or it shows to any individual that you don't understand the game, then answering the question is not a good idea. You have to tell the individual that his question is flawed, and you need to fix the question. You need to understand jungle better. If you understand jungle better, the question won't even arise. Anyways, going further into the post here, I've been watching some videos about tempo of the jungle, and I often see that tempo gets really screwed after I do a 3 camp clear. Okay. If I end up recalling, my jungler is all screwed up. The camps I cleared respawn as tier 2, while the other ones I didn't clear either get stolen or are tier 1. So what he's essentially referring to is level 1 camps versus level 4 camps. He's referring them to as tiers. I mean, it's whatever. I guess that's one way to say it. Is it more worthwhile to clear the remaining camps after the gank, or should I leave the tier 1 camps up, clearing those after my recall? Again, these questions. You need to tell us who's the bot lane, who's the top lane, what are the lane states, who are you playing, who's the enemy jungler. This is all stuff that, and again, he's getting answers for it, right? This guy here says, I will sync of jungle in roughly 5 jobs. And this is not, so then he goes ahead and lists whatever. If anytime any of these tasks cannot be done or are unable to be done effectively, do the other. Again, like, this is not how you teach the jungle. This is a very clear-cut way. This is not how you teach the jungle, right? And essentially, stuff like this, it gets upvotes. I actually ended up answering this question. And my answer obviously wasn't going to get any upvotes. My answer isn't going to be looked at the community and being like, oh, this is a good answer. This is actually really bad, right? Because you're not helping the player. But it's very scary, as I mentioned in this my answer here. It's actually quite scary when people answer questions like this. The question is actually fundamentally flawed. And if this guy goes into these answers and then he starts looking at these, and then he starts essentially taking away from whatever these guys are saying, and then he adds it to his own understanding of the game, it's actually just going to hurt him more than it's going to help him, right? So then, going back to my main point here, League of Legends, whether it be on subreddit or on any improvement Discord, has become a hub for misinformation, right? Anyways, and it's just like this, there's millions of other posts like this, and what you want to do is you want to actually, again, going back to my earlier point here, you want to actually have 2 or 3 or 4 credible sources, and then you want to compare what they say. And if there's any contradictions, then there's a problem, right? But there shouldn't be any contradictions, because if there are credible sources, that again, I have a list of that on my Discord, then there will be no contradictions when it comes to lower MMR play, okay? Anyways, going to the next topic here, I'm gonna have to open EpiPen for this. How to effectively plan serious improvement, hours/coaches. So if you want to improve, if you're not trying to go pro or anything, and you're like silver, you're like gold, you're like plat, you want to get to like diamond, you want to get to like, maybe lower than that, platinum, gold, whatever. You need to essentially have a time frame that you can now dedicate yourself to improvement, which could be 3 months. I think 3 months is pretty good. Could be 3 months, doesn't have to. I think 6 months is pretty excessive, especially if you're lower tier. 3 months is usually fine. And what you're going to do is you're going to essentially have a budget of about $100. Whether it's a budget of $200, it could be anything. But essentially what you're going to do is you're going to pay coaches. You're going to get weekly coaching, or maybe you'll get like, twice a week coaching. And you're only going to get coaching from people who are charging like $10 or charging like $15, right? You want to get really, really cheap amounts of coaching so that you can continue to use your budget as much as possible, right? Now, don't get coaching from me when you do this, because my coaching is $40. It can go from 40. Back then it was actually 60. It ranged between 40 and 60. It is not worth it if you're low MMR. It's the same thing with other coaches as well. It's not worth it if you're lower tier, because everything is on YouTube. Everything is for free. Or other coaches actually have their Patreon that you can go ahead and take a look at, okay? Sorry for that pause. Anyways, going back to what I was talking about here. Now what you want to do is you want to try to divide your day. You want to divide it into a schedule that you can actually effectively use. So let's say you play League for 6 hours a day, right? So you're doing League for 6 hours a day. You can do 2 hours of 1v1ing. You can do 2 hours of coaching practice. You actually want to do that first. And then you can do 2 hours of solo queue, right? And if you do this for 6 months or 3 months for 6 hours a day, then you will improve. There's no reason why you can't improve. And League of Legends is essentially a game. It's not like traditional sports where you have to have years and years and years of practice, right? For example, you can't just be a professional football player and you start playing football at 21. It's just not possible, right? You have to start playing football at like 15, or you have to start playing at like 16 or like 17, right? And even 17 is kind of a stretch sometimes, right? You should already be quite good. So you should be playing the game for a lot longer before you actually make it a lot higher tier. With League of Legends, it's a little bit different. If you're receptive to the game, you could go from silver 1 to like diamond 1 within the course of just a few months, or maybe even a few weeks if you're actually that receptive. I tell this story a lot. And this was a long time ago, right? This is a very long time ago. But there was me, right? There was myself, there was this KR challenger player, and then there was a silver player. These two were actually brothers, right? And they brought me in, and we were essentially, me and the KR challenger player, we were essentially helping the silver player improve. And we worked with them for hours and hours and hours. Every week or so, we talked. And he was very receptive to the game. He was an ADC player. So essentially what ended up happening, and I've said this story many times, and this is just to put things into perspective, and obviously maybe your improvement isn't as this drastic. But again, it is possible, right? This is possible. He was like silver 5 at the time, and this was when the 5th division obviously was a thing in the game, right? They ended up changing that later years, but he was like silver 5, and he usually went from silver 5 to silver 1, up somewhere around there. And essentially what ended up happening is in the first week he was like silver, and then by the end of like the 4th month of conscious practice, he was in game with Doublelift, playing against him in Challenger solo queue, right? And he was just like, obviously he had competitive experience because he was a professional golfer before he was playing League of Legends, so he understood what it took to actually be a professional athlete at a sport. And so, you know, that's just to put this entire example is just to put it into perspective that you can drastically improve. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that the random silver player can play against Challenger in 4 months, no, but you can go from silver to platinum within the course of a few weeks. You can go to platinum to D1 in the course of a few weeks. It is possible, right? And so you have to take into account these things. It's not like traditional sports where it takes years and years to improve at. Okay? Now, going to my next topic here. This is going to be the final little, portion of the video here. Tilt. I've talked about tilt many times. And everyone who's talking about tilt and giving answers on tilt most people are actually pretty incorrect. So here's the post actually found around revolving around tilt. So let's go ahead and read this because it is quite short. Right? How do you cope with tilt? I've got a real problem with tilting. When playing ranked, I can go on a 5-game winning streak, but the second I lose a game, no matter why, I just tilt so hard. Like to the level of where I want to throw my mouse if I could. I tell myself it isn't the end of the world that I lost a single game, and I know I'll surely climb eventually. But this guy needs to use grammar, by the way. Please, if you're gonna type something on Reddit, please fucking use grammar. But for some reason, I can't prevent this god awful feeling inside of me of rage, and it's really affecting me and really annoying. Okay, so he essentially is asking, how do you prevent yourself from tilting and whatever, right? Now, let's go and read the answers. Let's go down and see this guy. So this guy goes ahead and explains the easiest way not to care about the outcome of the game, whether it's a loss or win, and mute all in game. The easiest way is to not care about. I'm sorry, I'm literally illiterate. The easiest way is to not care about the outcome of the game. Now, okay, so if you don't care about the outcome of the game, why are you playing the game? All right? Why are you not, like, if you don't care about the outcome of the game, play normals, play ARAM. If you don't care about the outcome of the game, why are there so many people on the Summoner School or the subreddit trying to improve? It is very evident that everyone on the subreddit wants to improve. That's why it's called Summoner School. People give a shit, right? So not caring is not the answer to preventing your tilt. If you don't care, don't play the game. Simple. Right? And then you can also try drinking some green tea. Maybe this is the answer. I don't know. But anyway, so this is, again, not the answer, right? And then, there's obviously there's other answers to this, right? But whatever. So, and then I actually ended up answering as well, but obviously got kind of just, flooded with the amount of, this is the volume of other answers here. But anyways, going back to this whole thing. Yeah. Literally, like here again, right? I close League and sleep. So this guy says he usually goes to sleep, right? And I'm pretty sure there's another one where this guy right here. Go to sleep, you'll be okay, I promise. So another apparent answer is just go to sleep or go do something else. Well, the reason why going to sleep or going to do something else is the reason it works is because you are essentially detaching yourself of the game. You are detaching your identity with the loss and the game and giving distance to that. Therefore, yes, you will be less tilted. But the problem is you're not actually addressing the real remedy of the situation. You're just telling the player to go to bed or go do something else. This doesn't actually help the person. You don't know why going to bed helps. You don't know why going to do something different actually helps you. Now, the way you actually fix tilt, the universal way to fix tilt, is that, first of all, you have to get the idea of that tilt has nothing to do with your game. First of all, your tilt has absolutely nothing to do with League of Legends, and it's just a byproduct of your unconscious behavior and your unawareness to the very emotions and thought processes that you have within yourself, essentially, right? Nothing to do with the game. League of Legends, you can tilt on anything. Tilt actually originated from poker. It eventually came to League of Legends after a number of years, and then it ended up going towards other like games, I guess, right? And now it's like this universal kind of topic where it's like, oh yeah, you're tilted. But tilt essentially has really nothing to do with the game itself. Now, the way you fix it is that you have to become conscious of your behavior. So what you do is you become conscious of the way you're feeling, right? You become conscious of your thoughts and you become conscious of your actions. That's essentially what you have to do. You should be aware of, okay, this is how I feel right now. I am conscious and I'm aware of this concept, of this feeling inside of me. And now, if you're conscious of it, you can now logically deal with it, right? But the way you do this is you must become conscious of it before it arises into something physical, like breaking your mouse or throwing your keyboard or letting it get to your head and actually affecting whatever you're doing, right? And to do that in order to do that, you must become conscious of this feeling before it actually arises within you, and takes you over, essentially, right? So I could be sitting here and throughout the day, I could be conscious of, okay, I'm feeling very happy right now. I'm feeling very aggravated right now. I'm feeling very, XYZ, whatever. Now, you don't have to do anything about this feeling. If you're feeling discomfort, if you're feeling like some kind of discomfort, you don't have to do anything about it. As long as you're conscious of the idea that this is happening to you right now, then that is enough reason for you not to let it spread into other aspects of your life. And so now, if I'm playing the game, again, we'll use a literal example here. If I'm playing the game here, and someone does something really stupid, and I tilt, but I'm aware, or it's gonna like cause tilt, but I'm aware and I'm conscious of the emotions inside of me. I can catch that tilt. I can catch that emotion of like anger or frustration or discomfort before it arises and becomes an issue. And then what I can do is I can logically dissect it, which means that now I can be like, okay, well, yes, I'm feeling angry, but if I'm feeling angry, is this actually going to do anything? I'm feeling angry. Is it going to help my gameplay? I'm feeling really pissed off. Is this actually going to logically help me? Of course, most of the time it's not going to, right? When has anger really led to a positive result in your life? And so, well, the logical thing is not to tilt. Of course, you have to approach this with more of a logical perspective than an emotional perspective, but you can only do that if you become more conscious and aware of what's happening within you, whether it be through your physical actions or your emotional state, okay? And so, again, this is how you answer to tilt. You just become more conscious of what's going on around you. You become more aware. You don't have to try to stop it. Just be aware of it. Naturally, you will stop it, right? But don't actively try to stop it, okay? Anyways, so that's that. And then finally, mentality around ranked. I'm not going to go over this, actually. This is kind of a dark topic. But maybe we'll save this for another video. I won't go over this today because the video is getting quite long. I will cover this probably the next verbal video that I do. And that is it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Have a good day. Bye. See you guys.